My husband said I was paranoid for thinking his family hated me. Then his drunk uncle stood up at Thanksgiving dinner and thanked him for finally getting rid of the first wife. We've been married 7 years. I'd been married to Brandon for 7 years. 7 years of feeling like an outsider at every family gathering. 7 years of walking into rooms and watching conversations stop. 7 years of my husband telling me I was imagining things. "They love you," he'd say every time I brought it up. "You're just being sensitive." But I wasn't imagining the way his mother would hug everyone else at Christmas except me. Wasn't imagining how his sisters would make plans right in front of me, then go silent when I asked if I could join. Wasn't imagining the inside jokes that would end abruptly whenever I entered the room. "That's just how they are," Brandon would insist. "They're not trying to exclude you. You're reading too much into it." This Thanksgiving, we drove to his parents' house like we did every year. His mother greeted us at the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She hugged Brandon. She waved at me. "Dinner's almost ready," she said, already turning away. "Brandon, your father wants to show you something in the garage." I stood in the entryway with the pie I'd spent 4 hours making. The pie his mother would probably serve but never acknowledge I'd brought. In the living room, Brandon's sisters were laughing about something. When I walked in, they stopped, smiled politely. Then one of them said she needed to check on the kids, and suddenly the room was empty. I'd lived this exact scenario dozens of times. At dinner, I sat in my usual spot, the one at the end of the table, slightly separated from everyone else. Brandon sat between his father and his brother. Across from me was his uncle, already on his 4th beer. The conversation flowed around me, stories about people I'd never met, references to events I'd never been invited to. Brandon laughed along with everyone, never once looking my way to include me. I pushed food around my plate and wondered why I kept doing this to myself. Then Brandon's uncle stood up. He was swaying slightly, his beer sloshing in his hand. "I want to make a toast," he announced. Everyone groaned good-naturedly. Brandon's uncle was known for his drunken speeches. No, hear me out," he said, grinning. "I just want to say how proud I am of my nephew. Brandon, you're a good man, a strong man." Brandon was smiling, embarrassed but pleased. "And I'm glad," his uncle continued, "that you finally got rid of the first wife. She was a piece of work, that one. Always causing problems, always making everything about her." The room went completely silent. I stared at Brandon's uncle, then at Brandon, then at the rest of the family. No one was looking at me. They were all looking at their plates. "What?" I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. Brandon's uncle blinked at me, confused. "What? What did you just say?" I asked. He looked around the table for help. "I just said I'm glad Brandon finally got rid of his first wife. You know, Melissa, that woman was a nightmare." The room tilted. "I am his first wife," I said slowly. "We've been married for 7 years." Brandon's uncle's face went pale. He looked at Brandon. "This isn't Melissa?" "Sit down," Brandon's mother said sharply to his uncle. But I was already standing. My chair scraped against the floor. "Who's Melissa?" I asked. I was looking at Brandon now. "Who is Melissa?" Brandon's face had gone white. "Honey, let's talk about this later. Who is Melissa?" I repeated. His mother sighed. "She was Brandon's first wife. They were married for 2 years before you. It was a mistake. Ancient history. 7 years. 7 years of marriage. And he'd never told me he'd been married before." "You were married?" I said to Brandon. "You were married and you never told me?" "It wasn't important," he said quickly. "It was so long ago. It didn't matter." "Didn't matter?" My voice was rising. "You lied to me. For 7 years, you lied to me." "I didn't lie," he said. "I just didn't mention it." "That's lying," I said. His sister spoke up. "To be fair, we all thought he'd told you. We've been calling you Melissa this whole time." I turned to her. "What?" She looked uncomfortable. "I mean, not to your face, but like, when we talk about you. We just say Melissa because it's easier than remembering your actual name." The words hit me like a physical blow. "My name," I said quietly, "is Jennifer." "Right?" she said. "We know that. It's just a slip of the tongue sometimes." I looked around the table. At these people I'd spent 7 years trying to win over. These people who'd made me feel crazy for thinking they didn't like me. They'd been calling me by his ex-wife's name for 7 years. "Did you know?" I asked Brandon. "Did you know they were calling me Melissa?" He didn't answer. "Did you know?" I repeated. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I figured you didn't notice. So why make it a big deal?" Something inside me snapped. I walked out of the dining room, found my coat and my purse. Brandon followed me. "Where are you going?" he asked. "We haven't even had dessert." I stared at him. "Are you serious right now?" "Look, I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Melissa, but it was a long time ago. It doesn't change anything between us." "It changes everything," I said. "How? How does it change anything? I love you. I married you. The past is the past." "The past is the past?" I repeated. "Brandon, your family has been calling me by your ex-wife's name for 7 years. And you knew. You knew and you never said anything." "Because it didn't seem like a big deal," he said, his voice rising with frustration. "They mix up names sometimes. My mother calls my brother by the dog's name half the time. It's not personal." "It's completely personal," I said. "They never bothered to learn my name. They never bothered to see me as separate from her. And you let them." "You're overreacting," he said. Those 2 words. The words I'd heard 100 times over 7 years. The words that made me feel insane. "I'm going home," I said. "We drove together," he pointed out. "Then I'll call a cab." "Jennifer, come on. Don't do this. Don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene," I said. "I'm leaving. There's a difference." His mother appeared in the hallway. "Is everything all right?" "No," I said. Everything is not all right. Look, she said, her voice taking on that patient tone people use with difficult children. I know my brother can be tactless when he drinks, but there's no need to make this into a whole thing. Why don't you come back to the table and we'll just forget this happened? Forget this happened? I said. You've been calling me Melissa for 7 years. She waved her hand dismissively. It's just a name. You're being too sensitive. There it was again. Too sensitive. Overreacting. Making things into a big deal when they weren't. My name is Jennifer, I said. And I've been your daughter-in-law for 7 years. 7 years and you can't be bothered to remember my name. 7 years and you treat me like I'm temporary. Like I'm just the next Melissa. That's not fair, his mother said. We've always been welcoming to you. I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. Welcoming? You've excluded me from every family event you could. You've made plans in front of me and never invited me. You hug everyone except me. You talk about me like I'm not in the room. That's not welcoming. That's tolerating. You're being dramatic, she said. Am I? I looked at Brandon. Tell her I'm not being dramatic. Brandon shifted uncomfortably. Mom, maybe we should have made more of an effort. Oh, don't you start, his mother snapped at him. We've done nothing but try with her. She's the one who's always standoffish, always in a mood, always acting like we've done something wrong. Because you have, I said. You've spent 7 years treating me like I'm invisible, like I don't matter. And when I tried to bring it up, Brandon told me I was imagining it, that I was paranoid, that I was too sensitive. Brandon's father appeared now. The whole family was gathering in the hallway like this was a spectator sport. What's all this commotion? He asked. Jennifer is upset about the Melissa thing, Brandon's mother explained, as if I were a toddler throwing a tantrum over a toy. Ah, his father said. He looked at me with something that might have been pity. You have to understand, Melissa was with us for 2 years. It takes time to adjust to a new face. It's been 7 years, I said. How much time do you need? He shrugged. These things take as long as they take. I looked around at all of them. At Brandon's sisters watching with barely concealed amusement. At his brother trying not to smile. At his parents acting like I was the unreasonable one. At Brandon, standing there looking uncomfortable but not defending me. Not once defending me. I'm done, I said quietly. What? Brandon asked. I'm done with all of this. With pretending everything is fine when it's not. With letting you convince me I'm crazy for noticing how your family treats me. With being called the wrong name in my own marriage. You're upset, Brandon said. I get it. But let's just calm down and talk about this at home. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You lied to me about being married before. Your family has been calling me by your ex-wife's name for 7 years. And you knew and you said nothing. What exactly is there to discuss? Jennifer, come on, he said, reaching for my arm. You're making this into something it's not. I stepped back. Don't touch me. His hand dropped. He looked hurt, like I'd slapped him. I'm calling a cab, I said. Don't follow me. I walked out into the cold November air. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. It took me 2 tries to get the rideshare app to work. Brandon came out a minute later. Jennifer, please, come back inside. We can work this out. Can we? I asked. Because I don't think we can. I think this is who you are, who they are. And I think I've been trying to pretend otherwise for 7 years. That's not true, he said. I love you. I want to be with you. Then why didn't you tell me you'd been married before? I asked. Why didn't you correct your family when they called me Melissa? Why didn't you ever, even once, stand up for me? He didn't have an answer for that. My ride pulled up. I got in without looking back. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. You okay? No, I said, but I will be. I spent Thanksgiving night alone in our apartment. Brandon came home around midnight. I heard him come in, heard him pause outside the bedroom door, then heard him go to the guest room. In the morning, I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table. Brandon appeared around 8, looking exhausted. Can we talk? He asked. Yes, I said. We can talk. He sat across from me. I'm sorry. I should have told you about Melissa. I should have corrected my family when they mixed up your names. I should have stood up for you more. I nodded. You should have. I just didn't want to make things awkward, he said. My family can be difficult. I thought if I just let things go, eventually everything would smooth out. But it didn't smooth out, I said. It just got worse. And the whole time you were telling me I was imagining things. I know, he said. I was wrong. I can see that now. But we can fix this. I'll talk to my family. I'll make sure they understand you're not Melissa, that you're Jennifer, that you're my wife and they need to respect you. I took a sip of my coffee. Why didn't you tell me you'd been married before? He looked down at his hands. Because I was embarrassed. The marriage to Melissa was a disaster. We fought constantly. She didn't get along with my family. It ended badly. When I met you, I wanted a fresh start. I didn't want to drag all that history into our relationship. So you just erased it, I said. You pretended it never happened. Yes, he admitted. And I was wrong. I should have been honest with you from the start. What else haven't you told me? I asked. Nothing, he said quickly. I swear. That's it. That's the only thing. I wasn't sure I believed him anymore. Tell me about her, I said. Tell me about Melissa. He looked uncomfortable. Why? Because apparently I've been living in her shadow for 7 years, and I didn't even know it. So tell me about her. He sighed. We met in college. Got married right after graduation. We were too young, too different. She wanted to travel, have adventures. I wanted stability, a career, a family. We fought about everything. Money, time, priorities. My family loved her at first, but then she started pushing back against them, questioning their decisions, making waves. Making waves how? I asked. Just little things. he said. Like when my mother would plan family vacations without consulting us, Melissa would say we had other plans. Or when my sisters would just show up at our apartment unannounced, Melissa would tell them they needed to call first. She set boundaries. My family didn't like that. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Your family didn't like that she set boundaries. They thought she was being difficult, Brandon said, trying to pull me away from them. Was she? I asked. Or was she just trying to have a marriage that wasn't controlled by your family? He didn't answer. What happened? I asked. How did it end? She gave me an ultimatum, he said quietly. Her or them. She said I had to choose. That I had to start putting our marriage first instead of always prioritizing what my family wanted. And you chose them, I said. I told her she was being unreasonable, he said. That you don't make someone choose between their spouse and their family. That we could work it out if she just tried harder to get along with them. But she didn't try harder, I said. No, he said. She left, filed for divorce a week later. Said she wasn't going to spend her life competing with my family for my attention. I sat with that for a long moment. And then you met me, I said slowly. And I was quiet, accommodating. I didn't make waves. I didn't set boundaries. I tried so hard to get your family to like me that I never stood up to them. That's not, he started. That's exactly what happened, I said. You learned from your first marriage that if you marry someone who doesn't rock the boat, things are easier. So you found someone who would swallow all the disrespect and tell herself she was imagining it. You're twisting this, Brandon said. Am I? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you chose someone who wouldn't make you choose. Someone who would just accept being treated badly and blame herself for being too sensitive. I love you, he said desperately. That's why I married you. Not because you were easy or accommodating. Because I love you. But you didn't love me enough to defend me, I said. You didn't love me enough to tell your family to stop calling me by your ex-wife's name. You didn't love me enough to be honest about your past. I'm being honest now, he said. I'm telling you everything. We can move forward from this. Can we? I asked. Because I don't think I can. I don't think I can spend the rest of my life wondering what else you're not telling me. Wondering if your family will ever actually see me instead of just seeing a replacement for Melissa. Wondering if you'll ever actually choose me over keeping the peace with them. I'm choosing you now, he said. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm trying. You're trying now, I corrected. After 7 years. After I had to find out in the most humiliating way possible that your entire family has been calling me by the wrong name. You're trying now because you got caught. Not because you suddenly realized what you've been doing to me. He didn't have an answer for that either. I stood up. I need some time. I need to figure out what I want, what I can live with, and I need you to give me that space. Are you leaving me? He asked. His voice cracked. I don't know, I said honestly. Right now I'm just trying to understand how I spent 7 years of my life with someone who let me be called by another woman's name. I went to stay with my best friend Hannah. She'd been skeptical of Brandon's family from the start, but I'd always defended them. Told her she didn't understand, that they were just private people who took time to warm up. They've been calling you Melissa? Hannah said when I told her everything. For 7 years? Apparently. And he knew? He knew. Hannah's face went through several expressions. Shock, anger, disgust, finally settling on determined. You're staying here as long as you need, she said, and we're going to figure this out. Over the next few days, I started to see how much of myself I'd twisted to fit into Brandon's life. How I'd stopped mentioning my own family gatherings because his families were always more important. How I'd quit my book club because it met on the same night as his mother's weekly dinners. How I'd given up hobbies and friendships and parts of myself because there was never time for them around all the family obligations. I'd been so busy trying to be accepted that I'd forgotten who I was. Brandon called every day, texted every hour, left voicemails explaining how he'd talked to his family, how they felt terrible, how they wanted to apologize. I didn't respond to any of it. Then his mother called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Jennifer, she said. My name sounded foreign in her voice, like she was testing it out for the first time. I wanted to apologize. Brandon explained how hurt you are, and I can see now that we may have been unfair to you. May have been. Thank you for calling, I said carefully. I hope you'll come to Christmas, she continued. We'd love to have you. We want to start fresh. Show you that you're part of the family. I'll think about it, I said. Brandon is miserable without you, she said. He really loves you. I've never seen him like this, not even with Melissa. There it was. The comparison. She couldn't even apologize without bringing up Melissa. I need to go, I said. Of course, she said. But please think about Christmas. Family should be together for the holidays. After we hung up, Hannah found me staring at my phone. What did she want? She asked. To apologize, I said. Sort of. And to invite me to Christmas. Are you going to go? I don't know, I said. Part of me wants to believe they can change. That Brandon can change. That we can start over and this time it'll be different. But, Hannah prompted. But they've had 7 years to change, I said. 7 years to learn my name. 7 years to include me. 7 years to treat me like I matter. Why would it be different now? Because now there are consequences, Hannah said. Before, you just absorbed everything. Now you've left. Now Brandon is facing the possibility of losing you. Sometimes people only change when they have to. Is that enough? I asked. Change that only comes because they're afraid of losing something? Hannah didn't have an answer for that. A week later, Brandon showed up at Hannah's door. She let him in but stayed in the room, making it clear she was there as my support. I've been thinking, Brandon said, about everything you said, about how I let my family treat you, about how I didn't tell you about Melissa, about all of it. I waited. You were right, he said. About everything. I did choose the easy path. I married someone who wouldn't make me choose between my family and my spouse. I convinced myself that was love when really it was convenience. Okay, I said. And I've been talking to a therapist, he continued, about boundaries, about how to be a husband instead of just a son, about how to stand up to my family when they're wrong. That's good, I said. I'm glad you're doing that. I want you to come home, he said. I want us to work on this together. I want to show you that I can be the husband you deserve. And what about your family? I asked. Are they going to suddenly start treating me with respect? Are they going to stop seeing me as Melissa's replacement? I've set boundaries with them, he said. I told them that if they want to see me, they have to respect my wife. That means using your actual name. That means including you in plans. That means treating you like you matter. How did they take that? I asked. My mother cried, he admitted. My sisters said I was overreacting. My father said I was being manipulated. By me, I said. It wasn't a question. Yes, he said. They think you're trying to pull me away from them, just like Melissa did. And there it was. The truth underneath all the apologies and promises. So nothing has actually changed, I said. They're just better at hiding it now. That's not true, Brandon said. I've changed. I see what I did wrong. I'm trying to fix it. But your family hasn't changed, I said. And you're still making excuses for them. You're still explaining away their behavior instead of demanding they do better. I told them they have to respect you, he said. You told them, I repeated. But what happens when they don't? What happens the first time your mother plans something without including me? What happens when your sisters forget my name again? What happens when your father says I'm manipulating you? Brandon was quiet. You'll tell me I'm overreacting, I said. You'll tell me to give them time. You'll tell me that's just how they are. And we'll be right back where we started. No, he said. I won't do that anymore. I promise. I looked at him. At this man I'd spent 7 years with. 7 years of loving him and trying to be enough for him and slowly losing myself in the process. Do you know what the saddest part is? I asked. I spent 7 years trying to make your family love me, trying to prove I was worthy of being part of your life. And the whole time, they were calling me by someone else's name. They never even saw me. They just saw a space where someone else used to be. I saw you, Brandon said. I see you. Do you? I asked. Because the man who sees me wouldn't have let this happen. Wouldn't have let me feel crazy for 7 years. Wouldn't have hidden an entire marriage from me. I made mistakes, he said. But I love you. That has to count for something. It does, I said. But I don't know if it's enough. He stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Are we over? I don't know, I said honestly. I need more time. How much time? I don't know that either. After he left, Hannah sat beside me on the couch. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to figure out who I am without him, I said, without spending all my energy trying to fit into someone else's family, without twisting myself into shapes that might finally be acceptable. I'm going to remember who I was before I met him. And then? Hannah asked. And then I'll decide if I want to go back. I spent December rediscovering myself. I joined a pottery class I'd been interested in for years but never had time for. I started having weekly dinners with my own family, the ones I'd been neglecting while attending every single one of Brandon's family events. I reconnected with friends I'd let drift away. I remembered what it felt like to be Jennifer. Not Melissa, not Brandon's wife, just me. Brandon continued his therapy, continued calling and texting. He sent flowers, sent letters. He showed up at my pottery class once, watching from the doorway until I acknowledged him. I'm working on it, he said, on being better, on being the person you need. I know, I said, but you should be doing that for yourself, not for me. Christmas came. Brandon's mother called again, inviting me to dinner. I declined. Instead, I spent Christmas with Hannah and my own family, with people who knew my name, who wanted me there, who didn't compare me to someone else. It was the best Christmas I'd had in 7 years. In January, Brandon asked me to meet him for coffee. He looked different, tired, but also somehow lighter. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said, about what you said, about everything. And you were right, about all of it. I chose convenience over partnership. I chose peace over standing up for you. I chose my family's comfort over your dignity. I nodded. Yes, you did. I told them I wouldn't be seeing them for a while, he said, until they're ready to actually apologize to you, actually acknowledge what they've done. No more excuses, no more explaining it away, real accountability. I was surprised. How did they react? Badly, he admitted. My mother said I was abandoning the family. My sisters said you'd brainwashed me. My father hasn't spoken to me since. And? I asked. And I realized something, he said. For the first time in my life, I'm okay with disappointing them, because disappointing you is worse. I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but recognition. That must have been hard, I said. It was, he agreed, but it was also necessary. I should have done it 7 years ago. I should have done it the first time they made you feel unwelcome. I should have chosen you over keeping the peace. Yes, I said, you should have. I know I can't take back the last 7 years, he said. I know I can't erase what happened, but I want to try moving forward, differently this time, with me actually being your partner instead of just your husband in name. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd let me be invisible for 7 years, but also at the man who'd finally chosen me over his family's approval. I need to know something, I said. If I come back, if we try again, what happens the first time your family reaches out? The first time your mother calls crying, or your father says he's disappointed, or your sisters say they miss you? Then I remind them why I'm not seeing them, he said. And I hold that boundary, even if it's hard, even if it hurts. Because you're my family now. You're the one I chose. And I need to start acting like it. What about Melissa? I asked. Are there any other secrets? Any other ex-wives I should know about? He smiled sadly. No, just the one. And I told you everything about her. The good, the bad, all of it. No more secrets. I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. I'm not ready to come home yet, I said. I saw the disappointment in his face, but he nodded. I understand, but I'm willing to try. I continued, slowly, carefully, with couples counseling and actual communication and real boundaries with your family. Whatever you need, he said. Whatever it takes. And if you slip back into old patterns, I said, if you start making excuses for them or telling me I'm overreacting or letting them call me Melissa one more time, I'm done. For good. No more chances. I understand, he said. And I won't. I promise. We started couples counseling the next week. It was hard, painful. There were sessions where I cried, sessions where Brandon cried, sessions where we both wanted to give up. But slowly, things started to shift. Brandon started recognizing patterns he'd never seen before, ways he'd been conditioned by his family to prioritize their feelings over everyone else's, ways he'd learned to smooth over problems instead of addressing them. And I started recognizing my own patterns, how I'd made myself small, how I'd absorbed blame that wasn't mine, how I'd convinced myself that being accommodating was the same as being loved. We were both learning to do better. In February, Brandon's mother reached out to me directly, not through Brandon, not through one of her children. She called my phone. Jennifer, she said. Again, that careful pronunciation. I wanted to speak with you, if you're willing. I'm listening, I said. I've been doing some reflecting, she said, about how we treated you, about how we made you feel, and I want you to know that I'm sorry. I waited. Apologies were easy. Actions were what mattered. I realize now that we never gave you a real chance, she continued. We were so hurt by what happened with Melissa, by feeling like we lost Brandon to her, that we decided not to get attached to you. We kept you at arm's length because we thought it would hurt less when you left too. But I never left, I said. I stayed for 7 years. And you still kept me at arm's length. I know, she said quietly. And that was wrong. We made you pay for Melissa's sins. We treated you like you were temporary when you were trying to be permanent. And we called you by her name because it was easier than admitting we'd failed you. Something in my chest loosened slightly. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. I don't even expect you to want to see me. But I wanted you to know that I understand what we did. And I'm sorry, truly sorry. Thank you, I said, for saying that. If you ever want to talk, she said, or if you ever want to try again with us, we're here. But we'll wait for you. We won't push. We won't make demands. We'll wait until you're ready. After we hung up, I sat with it, with the apology I'd waited 7 years to hear. It felt both too late and somehow right on time. I told Brandon about the call in our next therapy session. How do you feel about it? Our therapist asked. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to believe her. Part of me thinks it's just words. Both can be true, the therapist said. She might genuinely be sorry. And you might still need time before you're ready to trust that. What do you want? Brandon asked me. Do you want to try seeing them again? Eventually, I said. But not yet. I'm not ready yet. Okay, he said. Then we wait. However long you need. I moved back home in the spring, almost 6 months after Thanksgiving. The apartment looked the same but felt different. Or maybe I was different. Brandon had kept his promises. He'd maintained boundaries with his family. He'd gone to therapy. He'd done the work. And slowly, carefully, I started to trust him again. We didn't go to his family's Easter dinner or Mother's Day brunch. We spent those holidays with my family instead, and Brandon didn't complain once. This is nice, he said at my mother's house. Your family is warm. They've always been warm, I said. You just never noticed because we were always rushing off to be with yours. He nodded. I know. I'm sorry for that too. In the summer, a year after Thanksgiving, I agreed to have coffee with Brandon's mother. Just the two of us. No expectations. She looked older than I remembered. Tired. She ordered tea and cupped it in her hands like she was cold despite the heat. Thank you for meeting me, she said. You're welcome. I wanted to ask you something, she said. And I want you to be honest. Can you ever forgive us? Can we ever come back from what we did? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know, I said finally. I think forgiveness isn't something that happens all at once. It's something you do a little bit at a time, as people show you through their actions that they've changed. So there's a chance? She asked hopefully. There's a chance, I confirmed. But it depends on you, on all of you, on whether you can actually see me instead of just seeing the space where Melissa used to be. We're trying, she said. I'm trying. I want to know you, the real you, not the version you thought we wanted you to be. Then ask me questions, I said. Real ones. About who I am, what I like, what I want. Get to know me. She smiled. What's your favorite color? Green, I said. Like forest green, the color of trees in summer. I didn't know that, she said quietly. I know, I said. But now you do. We talked for an hour. Just talked. About books and hobbies and childhood memories. Nothing deep, nothing heavy. Just two people getting to know each other. At the end, she hugged me. It was the first time she'd ever hugged me. Thank you, she whispered, for giving us another chance. Don't waste it, I said. Over the next year, things slowly improved. Brandon's family made an effort. A real effort. They invited me to things and actually meant it. They asked about my pottery class. They remembered my birthday. They called me Jennifer. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of awkwardness, still references to Melissa that slipped out, still old patterns that tried to resurface. But when those moments happened, Brandon didn't make excuses. He addressed them, set boundaries, reminded his family of their commitment to doing better, and I didn't make myself small anymore. When something bothered me, I said so. When I needed space, I took it. When I wanted to spend holidays with my own family, we did. I became a partner in my marriage instead of just a participant. This Thanksgiving, 2 years after the disaster, we hosted dinner at our house, both family, mine and his. I watched Brandon's mother help my mother in the kitchen, watched our families mix and mingle, watched Brandon introduce his sister to my brother and actually remember to include me in the conversation. At dinner, Brandon stood up to make a toast. "I just want to say how grateful I am," he said, "for my wife, Jennifer." He looked at me. "Who taught me that love isn't about keeping the peace? It's about standing up for the person you chose, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." His family raised their glasses. My family raised theirs. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt like I belonged. Not because I'd twisted myself into an acceptable shape, but because I demanded to be seen as I was. After dinner, Brandon's mother pulled me aside. "I'm glad you stayed," she said. "I'm glad I demanded better," I corrected gently. She smiled. "Yes, that too." Later that night, as we cleaned up, Brandon found me in the kitchen. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for giving me a chance to be better, for teaching me that I had to choose you." I looked at him, at this man who'd failed me for 7 years but who'd spent the last 2 trying to do better. "Thank you for finally choosing me," I said. He pulled me into a hug. "Always," he said. "From now on, always." And I believed him, because he'd shown me through his actions, not just his words. He'd proven it by setting boundaries, by going to therapy, by standing up to his family, by putting me first even when it cost him their approval. He'd proven that change was possible, that people could grow. That sometimes love means doing the hard work of becoming someone worthy of being loved. I still think about that Thanksgiving sometimes, about his uncle's drunken toast, about the look on everyone's faces when they realized I didn't know about Melissa, about walking out into the cold November air and thinking my marriage might be over. But I also think about what came after, about learning who I was, about demanding respect, about refusing to accept less than I deserved. That Thanksgiving destroyed my marriage, but it also saved it, because we couldn't rebuild until we acknowledged how broken we'd been. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is tell the truth, even when it ruins dinner, even when it ends engagements, even when it forces people to see what they've been pretending not to notice. Sometimes destruction is necessary, so something better can grow in its place. And I'm grateful for that drunken toast, for exposing the lie I'd been living, for giving me permission to finally demand more. Because I'm not Melissa, I'm Jennifer, and I deserve to be called by my own name in my own marriage. I deserve to be seen, and I finally am.